Hey guys, and welcome back to From Books to Big Screen. This is episode 4, The Best of Me. So I'm going to be talking about The Best of Me by Nicholas Sparks and the movie version of that, like the adaptation. So there was a lot of differences that I noticed, like right off the bat. Like the state that they're in is different in the book. It took place in North Carolina, I believe, and then in the movie it was in Georgia. It's not really too drastic of a change, and it didn't really make a difference in the plot. And I always feel like Nicholas Sparks' books always take place in the South anyway. They just always do. So the first big thing, which was very weird, is that Dawson, one of the main characters, in the book, he went to jail for killing, like, the local doctor in the town. But in the movie, he goes to jail for killing his cousin, whose name was Bobby. And, like, that wasn't even a real character in the book. They just made him up for the movie. I don't know if they did that for more of a dramatic effect. So he was, like, killing someone he was related to other than, like, a doctor. But it was very weird. And then in the book, Amanda, she has 2 kids and then one that has passed away. And that was like one of the saddest parts of the whole book is when Amanda would talk about her child who'd passed away. But in the movie, she only has 1 living child and then 1 deceased child, which wasn't too drastic. One thing that was really upsetting was that in the book, Claire's garden was always beautiful. They always described it as being like blooming and full bloom, especially when they first arrived at the cottage or house, whatever you want to call it. But in the movie, they showed it and all the flowers were dead and they were ugly. And I just felt it took away from the essence of what the garden meant and Clara as a character. Another big thing that I noticed was that Dawson and Amanda, like, read their letters from Tuck after they left each other, over the weekend, but in the movie, they read them that night Tuck passed away. Not really too big of a difference, but it was one I did notice. And this one annoyed me a lot, not gonna lie, is that in the book, Amanda stays married to her husband, but in the movie, she divorces her husband. I actually liked that version a little better. It kind of made more sense. But I'm not really sure why the director made these changes. Everything else was not too bad. Like, Dawson and Amanda learned about Tuck's cabin after he passes away, but in the movie, they do flashbacks a lot, which was very weird and kind of confusing. Like, that element did not need to be there at all. But in the movie, they go back as teenagers, because I think Dawson wanted to plant Claire's garden, since Tuck's back was out. But I don't know why the director decided to change all these things. But it was extremely, like, I think it wasn't too based on the novel. Most Nicholas Sparks books that do get adapted into movies aren't that similar to the book. I don't want to get too into all of his other books, but I remember, I think I read a little bit of Dear John, and the movie was pretty similar, but I just remember finishing The Best of Me, and I was obsessed with it, and I loved it, and it was, like, so sad, and all the characters were very important and meant a lot. But then when I watched the movie, there was characters that weren't even in the book, scenes that were completely not even in there, and just things that did not need to be added, like especially the flashbacks were very confusing. I think the book took place in the 80s, and then the movie flashbacks to the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. But overall, I really did enjoy the book. I was not the biggest fan of the movie adaptation. I still think it was a good movie. I just don't think it stayed true enough to the book that it could have. Okay, so thank you all for listening. This has been episode 4, The Best of Me, and thank you so much for listening.